Good morning. This is the BLAINESWORLD podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And you can also go to our website, which is www.blainesworld.net, and find out about past shows, current shows, future shows. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on the positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Audrey Blackburn, who's the Volunteer Engagement Manager at United Way of Asheville and Buncombe County. And Audrey, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. Okay, and
Thank you for having me on.
Okay, my pleasure. And that's Audrey Blackburn. I should mention that Audrey, in terms of background, before working at United Way, and I understand you just telling me off the air, this is your 1-year anniversary coming up?
It is. Tomorrow is my 1-year anniversary at United Way.
Okay, so prior to that, she followed her passion for working outdoors with children as an environmental educator. When moving to Asheville, she discovered a passion for working with volunteers, connecting individuals with many opportunities to be involved in the community. And certainly, I would imagine, Audrey, if folks want to get involved in the community, there's perhaps no better way than to become involved with the United Way. Is that correct?
We're going to talk about a lot of ways that they can get involved and a lot of different organizations they can support.
Well, let me ask you, before we get into that, as a child, you grew up where?
So I am a Winston-Salem native, born and raised. I moved around when I was 18. I've moved up and down the East Coast, but I have roots in Asheville, even though I just moved here a year ago. My favorite aunt and uncle are from here in Asheville, and so I spent my summers and my holidays here. So moving here is kind of like moving home for me.
Okay, are they still around?
You know what? They actually moved to Winston about 2 years ago to be closer to my parents, and they were a little upset that I moved here after they moved away.
Well, since we mentioned them and their names are what, we can say hello to them on the air?
It is so Pat and Don Williams are my favorite aunt and uncle.
Well, so if you're listening, folks, and you will, we'll send them a copy of the tape. You at least got their names in there. So thank you for listening if you're watching this. So you grew up outside of the area. Did you always know as a young woman that you always wanted to be a volunteer engagement coordinator for a nonprofit?
No. It's so funny. I know. I tell people nobody wants to grow up thinking they're going to be a volunteer. That's not a thing ever. It's never going to be a thing. I actually was really passionate about environmental education, spending time outdoors with children, teaching them about the world around them. And actually through that, I started working with volunteers. And then when I moved back to North Carolina about 8 years ago, I sort of fell into this volunteer manager position and absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved working with people in my community that are really passionate about different things. And I just thought, oh my God, this is totally what I want to do. So this is what I've been doing for about 8 years now.
And talk about before you came to United Way, what other volunteer organizations were you with?
Yeah, so before here, I was actually in Charlotte for about 5 years working at the Carolina Raptor Center. They work with birds of prey. They do rehabilitation as well as education. So I ran their volunteer program for about 5 years. Before that, I was at the Greensboro Science Center and worked in the volunteer department there. So a lot of really passionate people that are passionate about animals and the environment. And they are some of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet. So my job is delightful. And honestly, everybody should want to be a volunteer manager because it's the best job.
And one of the things that I guess makes your job a little bit easier, at least in the Asheville area, is that it seems to be also a great area for people volunteering. And I guess there are a lot of retired people and they want to volunteer. Let me ask you in terms of that then, if you would, why should people volunteer?
You know what? There's actually a whole lot of reasons that why volunteering is beneficial. For me personally, it's about just connecting with your community. It's a really great way for you to learn about what's going on, what are the core issues, and it gives you a way to help with that, to have a direct connection. It's also a great way for you to meet people. I'm here for a year and I've already made a lot of friends just through volunteering. Even though I'm a volunteer manager, I volunteer as well. And I get to meet a lot of really cool people that have turned into friendships. So those are, kind of two of my top reasons. I should throw out there statistically, that it's found that 77% of people that volunteer actually have better mental health after they volunteer than they do before.
Well,
Which is pretty cool.
your point is well taken, because same kind of thing. When I moved to Asheville some 15 years ago, we knew nobody. We had no relatives, no family. And just as you said, I got involved very quickly as a volunteer. And within a year, I knew a lot of people. Wasn't that cool, though?
Yeah, I've met a ton of people in 1 year. I have a group of friends and I go out and do a lot of things, and it's all because of volunteering.
And sometimes my wife says, and I think it's true about me, that I'm busier than ever, and when I work full time, I have, by choice, by volunteering a bunch of different kinds of things, and I just love it because it's fun. You meet people and you do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. Blaine, I have to tell you, I have to give a shout out to Asheville Community Theater, because you just had a podcast recently that you posted with them and their Blackburn production that's coming up. I volunteer with them as an usher. So if people go see Bat Boy, you'll see me. I'll help you do your seat.
Okay. And thank you for mentioning that, because what a great way people get involved in local theater,
Yeah,
and just,
absolutely. It's
by the way,
super fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to get a chill when you said that. Bat Boy is going to be a blast, so.
No, I'm seriously very excited about it.
But
so
to their credit, as you said, the Shadow, anything HCT does is great, so I don't know if you've seen the other stuff there. But that's interesting. So even though you're a volunteer coordinator, you volunteer elsewhere as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I grew up in a family that felt very strongly about giving back to the community. So, I volunteered a lot with my parents when I was younger, but once I was 13, my parents were kind of like, go out in the world. And I've been volunteering since I was 13 by myself. So I started at the Red Cross and I don't know, went on and did lots of other things from there. So here in Asheville, ACT is one. I am just starting a gig at the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program. So I'm getting a little sister very soon. And I'm super
sweet. The quote I use, and you might be able to use it, and I just used it my previous show I taped earlier tonight, is from a woman by the name of Shirley Chisholm. And I don't know if you know her, but she was the first Black woman to ever run for president in the United States. And she had a great quote, and it's sort of what you're saying is what you're all about, is service is the rent we pay for living on earth, and we're here to help others, and so toward that end, if you can, for the benefit of folks who don't know what United Way is, and that's talk about helping others, that's what United Way is all about. If you can, in maybe an hour and a half or less, summarize what United Way is about.
Sure. It's actually really funny, and I probably shouldn't tell this story, but before I started at United Way, if you had asked me about it, I would have told you they're that old organization that gives people money. Right. That was my definition. But I've learned a lot in the last year. And so the reality is that, each United Way actually functions independently from each other. And they have the opportunity to choose locally the issues that they would like to focus on. And so our United Way has chosen in the recent years to focus on education. And so we have been working very closely with a lot of different partners in the community in this network called United for Youth. And we all sort of have the same common goal that we created called the Bold Community Goal. So if you will, this Bold Community Goal that a bunch of organizations are focused on is that by 2035, we want all students to graduate from high school feeling ready and fully prepared to pursue their goals and dreams. So if they want to go to college or if they want to start their career, whatever they want to do, we want to make sure that they're ready to do that. And so instead of a bunch of different organizations working independently from each other, we decided to all get together and work toward the same goal so that we can move the needle together. And so United Way is a big part of that. We have 7 community schools that we're involved in. And really, that's about just creating this network of resources that our partners can utilize. So hands-on is part of that. We'll talk about the volunteer center that we run because a lot of these places need help with volunteers. And so we help them to recruit volunteers. So in a nutshell, we're about education. We want kids to succeed. We want to help give them the resources they need to succeed. and we work with a network to make that happen.
One of the things you mentioned, which I think is really cool, is that if people are looking to volunteer, they can try to find opportunities themselves. But what a nice way to have a clearinghouse, or if you will, a service. They'll instead match them and mix them, with different organizations in the area that need help. And so you mentioned the term hands-on.
Yes.
What is that exactly?
Yes. So hands-on is actually a branded term. So we at our United Way in Asheville have been part of the hands-on network since 2004. But if you Google hands-on, you have to be very specific what city you're talking about, because there are a lot of them. Chicago, Atlanta, San Francisco, like you name it, a lot of different cities have it. And so really hands-on is that branding just to indicate that it's a volunteer center. It's a website that you can go to find volunteer opportunities specifically that are local in your area.
And so what's that website?
So our website, our local website is handsonasheville.org. So if people go to that, handsonasheville.org, then they can start to kind of poke around and see the different nonprofits that we work with, to see the different opportunities that are available.
And boy, does that make it easy for people as opposed to having to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Just go to one resource, I guess, and find out. And there are a lot of opportunities out there for people.
Yeah. So, we work with almost 100 different nonprofits in the area that we're helping to recruit opportunities for. And you can find a little bit of everything. So no matter what people are interested in, chances are you're going to find something on the hands-on website. So it's funny because right before I got on the call with you, I just pulled up the website to see what are our top 6 right now when you pull it up. And so we have an opportunity that United Way is running that we'll talk about later. I have something from AB Tech, helping AB Tech out. You can help 10,000 villages at their store. The Western North Carolina Nature Center, working around animals. So they have a farm animal opportunity, which I think sounds awesome. ABCCM is up there with their transformation village. Their crisis ministry also has. So those are literally just the top 6 right now. And that's a snippet of the hundreds of opportunities that we have. So whatever interests people have, we actually have a really cool filter that you can use to find exactly what you're looking for. So if you like working with animals, you can filter that. If you like working with youth or around youth, you can filter for that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that clarifies something you said earlier, that you have a big thrust working with individual school systems, which is great, but there's a lot more to United Way volunteerism than just school systems. You can kind of, you name it. How many organizations hook into this hands-on?
So currently we have almost 100. The pandemic has really taken a toll, I think, on everybody around here. But our website has definitely, we're kind of decreased in numbers, but we are bringing those numbers back up as quickly as we can. So as time goes on, it'll just grow again, and we'll have more and more, nonprofits on there, which means we'll have more volunteer opportunities.
Now, you mentioned a good idea for any organizations that might be listening to it, that if they're seeking volunteers, again, if they're a nonprofit, they should contact you folks.
Please do. Please email me, and I'm happy to talk about. It's actually a free service for nonprofits to post on our website. And it's just there to just sort of give them like a wider range audience, to reach more people than, usually individual organizations can reach.
Sure. And again, it's a clearinghouse, so that you don't just one organization, but there are lots of other possibilities out there. You mentioned they go to the website. You mentioned email you. What's the best bet, to go to the website or email you?
So honestly, if you go to the website and go down to the bottom, the contact me button comes to me.
Okay.
So I'm the person.
I find that hard to believe. You're not at the very top. You have to go to the bottom.
I know. I should be the star of the show, but no, I'm at the very bottom. So
okay.
Easy to find.
You mentioned what, 100 organizations are
almost 100 right now.
Part of that? How many people? How many volunteers do you have involved?
What's funny? So if you were to look at the amount of individuals that have created a profile on our hands-on website, we have over 12,000 people signed up. And so, in terms of how many people are using the site, that goes up and down. It's like a cycle throughout the year. Holidays I have much higher usage than other times. But we have 12,000 people that are actually hooked in. They get the emails about updates and the newsletter that we send out about what's happening volunteer-wise with United Way and other things in the community. So a lot of people in the area are interested in volunteering.
That's really cool. So if I sign up, I'll then have access to your website, but there's also, how often do you send out a newsletter?
Yeah, so we just have a monthly newsletter. We're not looking to fill up your inbox or anything.
Right.
And the monthly newsletter really highlights kind of the cool things that are happening in the area, the things that we think people would be really interested in. We tell a lot of stories. We have our nonprofit partners have an opportunity to tell their own story about what they're doing and ways that people can hook into their organization. And so just a lot of really cool information in this one newsletter that comes out each month.
And so you mentioned, what was the number you mentioned? 1,200, is it? Or 12? What was
It's
it?
about 12,000.
12,000. So
12,000. Yeah,
and after today's podcast will be 12,007.
I hope so. I
Okay.
really hope so. If you're listening, go on the hands-on and sign up.
Now, when you sign up, you get, what happens? You get contact information for various nonprofits, or do you match them up, or what happens?
No, so really it's on the person who's looking to volunteer. So they create a profile, and then from there, they just have this really great dashboard that they can manipulate. They can go into the opportunity section to find things, and from there they can filter out what exactly they're looking for, or they can just browse and see what's happening. They also have the opportunity to look at the profiles of the different nonprofits that are hooked into hands-on. And so they can learn a little more about the different things that are happening in the community.
What's the age range of volunteers?
You know what, that's a great question. And it actually depends on the organization. So at United Way, for instance, I have some opportunities that we love for parents to bring their children. So I actually had an event last year that we had toddlers that were helping. It's hysterical and I loved it. But not all places are suitable for children. And so it's really, in each opportunity, we're very clear about what the age range is, age and up of who can participate. We have a great opportunity when school is in session. We run these community nights where families can come and get a free meal, and we have free tutors there and great resources. And so volunteers for that opportunity have to be at least 16 years old and up. But we always encourage people to volunteer with their family, because what a great way to bond with each other. It's what I did growing up, and I'm very close to my parents, and I think that's part of why, because it's just a great way for kids to get out and see their parents kind of in a different situation than they see them at home, right? And also kids get an ability to kind of learn at an early age what it's like to be in a workplace. Because they learn different skills of interacting with others around them and showing up on time and being dressed appropriately and things like that actually translate into when they go into working the work field. They already have skills and they're going to shine a little bit brighter than others that haven't.
What's the oldest volunteer you have, or the range of the oldest?
The oldest, you know what? I've never looked it up. I should look it up, because I will tell you, I have met some really delightful people that are in their 80s that I know of that are volunteering, but I don't know the actual oldest right now on the site. But we've got some that are just killing it out there in terms of volunteering in their retirement years, which is great.
Talk about also if students are listening to this, or the parents of students are listening to this. But what a great opportunity too for students to get their, what some schools have service credits or things they have to sign up for.
A lot of schools now have the service requirement, right? That kids can range anywhere between 5 and 15, even more hours. Kids that are in the National Honor Society usually have to get 20, 30 hours. And so hands-on is actually a really fantastic way to find these opportunities, because we've got opportunities that are ongoing, that you can go every week and volunteer. We have ones that I call one-off, that it's just you go one time, you get in your 3 hours, and then you're done. And so it's a really great resource for students to go on and find different things that they can do. So the community nights that we run that I mentioned, that's actually a great way for high schoolers to get easy hours serving food and helping kids with their homework and things like that.
And students, both high school or college, other levels as well, sometimes create their own almost internships or things they'd like to do. In other words, they look on your list and there isn't something appealing to them, but they know they want to work for United Way. They know they want to work for a school, but they want to, for example, my background is in marketing, but they can help in marketing and promotion. Can they sign up and make contacts to offer their services?
Oh, 100%. There's actually, I would recommend more than anything else, volunteering is a way to get your foot in the door.
Right.
And I'm a perfect example of that. Before I started environmental education, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was living in Connecticut at the time. And I just started volunteering at the local aquarium because it just looked cool. And that literally translated into a 20-year career for me because I found I had this passion for it. I got to know the staff there, they got to know me. And after volunteering for a little while, they actually hired me. And then it was off to the races from there. And so I really recommend to students, if they have a passion for something, start volunteering at organizations in the area that align with those passions, and they can become more familiar and they make those really important contacts that they're going to need down the road to get the foot in the door.
And it's funny you mentioned that because I'd say in the last year or so on the podcast, I've met at least 3 people who started out as volunteers. And I'm telling you, within a couple of weeks, they work for a full-time job. They didn't do that. So that's really cool. It can happen.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's such a wonderful way for people to get to know you, right? It's kind of like an easy way that people can just kind of see how you work and how you fit in the space and the culture. And so, yeah.
Here's an interesting idea for any college students who are listening to this or their parents. I guess it's also a way they can create almost their own internships. Would you say, do you have any people come to you for internships?
Yeah, and we actually, we run an internship program at the United Way. And typically the interns hear about us through the volunteer program. And so, a lot of the organizations that we work with, a really high percentage have internships. And so once they volunteer, they can learn more about those internships and they're more likely to get the internship if they're already a volunteer than if they're just a stranger applying off the street.
What's the internship program in the United Way?
You know what? So we work with students that are going for their social work degree. And so they actually intern at our community schools. They work with our community school coordinators. And so they get to work with the kids and the teachers and the administration. They also get to work with the different, like businesses and nonprofits that help to support those schools and the students. And so it's just, not to like humble brag, but it's a really cool internship because they walk away with this kind of vast knowledge and this new network. They make a lot of connections in our internship because that's the nature of their job.
And isn't that the nature of, I guess, getting ahead in careers and life in general to make those contacts,
Yeah. Oh, that's what it's all about.
And what's incredible, I find, is that people drop their contacts, and I always tell people that if you're a volunteer, you made that contact, you stay in touch with that organization the rest of your life,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have used in the past, I've definitely used places that I volunteered for have been my references for workplace. They make wonderful references for workplace because workplaces like to know that you're, not just about work, but you're also involved in the community as well. It's kind of a well-rounded thing, right? So yeah.
Talk also, if you would please, but the other thing, I won't even say it's coming up because you're right involved in it, but people don't realize United Way has all these organizations you serve, but also I've been familiar with the school supply drive. And what is that?
Yes, so I'm in charge of the school supply drive, which is super exciting. It's something that we have actually been running for, I want to say 17 years now. And over those 17 years, we've been able to provide over 23,000 students with a backpack full of everything they need on that first day of school. And so we do this every year. We're right in the middle of the drive. This is actually the last week for it. And so our goal this year is to raise enough money to get 2,300 backpacks. Now, the interesting thing that a lot of people don't realize is that we at United Way, we raise the money and we get the supplies and we pack all the bags. We actually don't hand them out to the children directly. We work with a network of partners in the area that work directly with children, and they are the ones that actually hand the bags out. So I get to work with really cool organizations like, I don't know, Christine Avery Learning Center, and Collaborativa La Milpa in the Emma community. I get to work with the Buncombe County Migrant Education Program. So we have a list of 35 different nonprofit partners that are going to receive these bags that will in turn hand them out to the students that they work with.
Now talk about the process. So that school supply drive, I guess there are a lot of parts to it, moving parts. That first of all, there's a fundraising aspect of this, right? You have to raise funds for this.
Yes. So this year our goal is about $67,000. And I will say, as of when I left work today, we are very, very close. We're only a few $1,000s short, and we still have, 4 or 5 days to go. So I'm feeling really good. We're going to hit our mark, but we still need that last final push to come in. And so, we do raise the money. The cool thing about this too is that I'm not just working with individual donors. I get to work with a lot of really cool businesses in the area. We have a lot of businesses around that are really interested in giving back in the community. And so we have some really big supporters of this drive. I kind of want to name them, but we would be here all night. But I'll tell you, today I was out at Eaton Corporation, and we did a mini pack and sort with them. So their employees actually helped us to pack bags. Mission Hospital actually is a big supporter. They, contact me today to say that they're feeling really good about their fundraising. They're going to hit their goal this year. We work with Harry's on the Hill and, Bank of America. And, most importantly, I want to shout out Aeroflow is actually our big sponsor of the school supply drive. So they're one of the reasons I'm able to even run the drive. So Aeroflow is really committed into going out and being part of the community and supporting really important causes. And school supply drive is one of those. So shout out to them for being our sponsor this year.
Look at something, an idea I never heard about until fairly recently, but some corporations are even now using volunteer days to bring their staff together or their workers together, or especially around Christmas time or holiday time, that rather than go to a party, I've actually heard some organizations say, hey, let's give back to the community. Are you seeing more of that?
It's a huge trend. And since I've started being a volunteer manager, so over the last decade, there really is a big movement in the corporate world. It's called corporate social responsibility.
Okay, right.
Where they want to get their employees more engaged just outside of work. It's a great team building tool for them. And so I get a chance to sit down with our resource development department. I get to go out and meet a lot of businesses and talk to them about the importance of volunteerism and how connecting their employees through volunteerism really helps to engage their employees in different ways than they would have not done in the past. And so that is something that I do is I connect with businesses. So if there are any businesses out there that are interested in getting their employees more engaged, then shoot me an email. I'm happy to talk to you. Our resource development department's happy to talk to you about how to start that process. We're finding more and more, especially with Gen Z, they are really looking at when they're getting jobs now, they're really looking to see, are these businesses actually plugged in and, interested in giving back? And they are more likely to go with a business that is than one that's not. And so we're helping businesses to create volunteer policies and engagement plans. And that's something that I do in my department. And I actually really love it. We have some cool businesses.
Let me ask you as a spin on this, something an idea my wife and I have discussed and discuss it with others. But could this also be done for family or for party, or you want to have a 50th birthday party for somebody, rather than have a party, you pay, everybody eats. that you could give back to the community and put everybody to work. Is that done at all?
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
We have a lot of different opportunities on the hands-on website that are for groups. Like organizations are looking for groups. So I've already mentioned the community nights that we run through the school year. I love for groups to come in because for each one of those, I need 7 to 10 volunteers for it to function well. And it always kind of works out better if a bunch of people know each other ahead of time. And they can function together, and it's just a fun thing to do, right? To go out with your friends and have this, kind of cause that you're supporting together. You usually get some fun stories and some laughs out of it. So I will tell you, I want to give a shout out to my coworker, Erica Goffin, because for the school supply drive, she has actually created her own team of her friends and neighbors because it is her birthday. And so she has a birthday team that she's engaging in the school supply drive. Just like you said, it's just like a fun thing for her to do with the people surrounding her, to get involved in her workplace. So,
thank you for that.
You don't have to be part of United Way. You can just do that on your own.
No, but you're giving me an idea, and thank you. It's a tremendous idea. Hopefully other people are picking up as well. So if you want to celebrate somebody's 50th birthday or 75th birthday or whatever, have a party, but have it, you can help them, you can put them to work, which is a very, very sweet idea. In terms of people coming to, you mentioned upcoming now, we have the school, the supply drive is ending almost as we speak, but that doesn't end it. What happens next?
No, so fundraising is that first part, and that does end on Friday. So if you're interested in donating, you gotta hurry up on that one. But what happens after that, once we collect the money, we purchase all the supplies. They are actually delivered to Harrah's Convention Center. We need a lot of space to pack 2,300 book bags. And so it takes us 3 full days, 230 volunteers to pack all of these bags and get them organized for our distributing partners to come in and pick them up. On Wednesday, I'm going to be opening that volunteer opportunity to the public. So if you go to hands-on Wednesday, look for the pack and sort event, the school supply drive pack and sort event. And I will tell you, last year was one of my first weeks at work, right? And so I got thrown right into it. And it was like the best way to start work ever, because you go and there's so much laughter. It's so much fun. You're around so many people. There's music playing, and you just feel good because you know what you're doing is directly helping a child in the community. I'm starting on Wednesday. We're going to open that to the public, and we would love for people to fill those 230 spots.
Now, how many days do you pack the?
So it takes us 3 full days. So it starts on July 31st, and then August 1st and August 2nd. So we need a lot of help to get it done.
And if somebody volunteers, how long do they have to volunteer for?
You know what? I try to make it as flexible and easy as possible. So each day has 2-hour shifts. So we have multiple 2-hour shifts. So you can come in for 2 hours, or you can come in for 4 hours or 6 hours if you really want to. I wouldn't recommend 6 hours. 4 hours is kind of the sweet spot, I think, for people. But it's people get to pick and choose what fits for their schedule.
Okay, I mean, what a great opportunity for people to get involved. Where I like what you're saying, it's also on a short-term basis and not making a long commitment to this.
Come one time and you can feel really good about the cool thing that you're doing.
If you go to the website, are there a lot of one-time opportunities like that?
Yeah. And it's not just United Way. It's other partners have a lot of, I call them one-off opportunities. You just come one time, you do the thing that's needed, and then you go home, and you really help that organization.
How about the one time, I guess, you kind of get a lot of volunteers out, and that's, I guess, during Christmas or holiday seasons, or Thanksgiving too. I won't say you get too many, but if people want to volunteer or they want to help out, you'll put them to work during those seasons as well?
Oh, yeah. So starting around Thanksgiving, I typically have a special section on the hands-on website that is specifically geared towards holiday opportunities, because a lot of our organizations we work with increase what they're doing at the holidays. They need a lot more help than they normally do. And so we actually have a special section during the holidays. I know for United Way, we run a holiday book drive. And so I actually need volunteers just that one time a year to come in and help me sort the books so that we can get them ready to give out to the kids in the community. And there are a lot of little things like that are kind of one-off, come in, help get things done, and then you're good. So
I guess with anything, the earlier you sign up for some of the stuff, the better. Like I said, especially you're talking Thanksgiving or Christmas. If you want to volunteer to give back to the community, you could wait till Thanksgiving or Christmas, but probably you're better off if you sign up sooner rather than later.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you certainly have your work cut out for you over the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
Beyond the next couple of weeks, what will you be involved in?
You know what? I'm a busy girl, Blaine. So 2 weeks after our big pack and sort ends, we are actually throwing a United for Youth block party. Last year was our first year, and I will tell you, it was amazing. We had almost 1,000 people show up. We hold it in Pack Square. So this year it's going to be on August 17th in Pack Square, later in the afternoon. And people can come, and we'll have 60 different nonprofits that will have tables with, different fun activities for people to engage in. We'll have free food there. We'll have fun activities. We're actually going to run a volunteer service project for the first time this year. I'm really excited. We're going to build bookcases that will go to Read to Succeed. And so the community can help us build those bookcases at the block party. And so an event like that, I need a lot of volunteers. I need over 100 volunteers to help it run smoothly, because there are a lot of moving pieces to that particular
event. Yeah.
And so the signups for that will be coming up very soon. So people should definitely keep an eye out, because that's a really fun one, because you're engaging with kids, their families, different nonprofits. It's a good time. It's a good time.
And so the best way to find out about that and other stuff, can go to the website, sign up for the mailing list.
Yep, handsonasheville.org is where it's all going to be.
Okay, well, anyway, exciting stuff. It sounds like you're going to be busy over the next couple, I won't say over the next couple months. Do you ever have downtime with the United Way?
I feel like I should say yes, but the reality is no. We always have something going on. There's always something going on year round. Even in my downtime, it's always about planning for these big, school supply drive doesn't just happen overnight. I've literally been planning since January for this particular week. So, even if downtime, there's not really any downtime. Still planning.
Anyway, I'd like to thank you, Audrey Blackburn, for being my guest on this Blaine's World podcast. Also, like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And hopefully we'll see you soon, if not at Asheville Community Theater or some other place down the road.
Yes.
Thanks for being my guest.
Thank you for having me on, Blaine. It's a pleasure.
Okay, likewise. And I'll say goodbye.